Hey, I'm Obi, that said, and we are drinking from the garden hose, your favorite podcast. Find us wherever you get your podcast, be it Apple, be it Amazon, Spotify, Alexa. We got it. We are there. Like us, subscribe, leave us comments, send us messages. We love to hear from those on all our social, and we appreciate the feedback. Ed, how are you?
Doing great. Getting ready for Freeze-a-Geddon. Going to get cold real quick, real soon around here. So getting ready for it.
Oh, it does look it. It looks like it's going to be cold and not snowy, which is like the least favorite thing. I like a good snow, but not the 30s or 20s without it.
I already got people at work saying it's going to rain and then freeze, so maybe we should leave early. Okay, it's Tuesday. We'll figure that out on Friday.
They're like, please. They're like, what they're saying is, Ed, it's the Friday before Christmas. We're leaving early. Here's an excuse you can use to tell the bosses.
I think pretty much that's what's being set up already. When you get those texts on a Tuesday, letting you know about the weather on Friday. I have a canned response. It's always like, yeah, it certainly looks that way. I guess we'll see what happens on that day.
I got to tell you, at my work, it feels like every day this week has felt like Friday, and then you wake up and you're like, there's another day to work. It's been 3 days and it's felt like 2 weeks already.
You know, there's no doubt about that. So the day this drops, I'm not working. So every day has seemed like Thursday to me. Like I looked at the calendar today. I'm like, are you kidding me? I still got more days to go. I thought for sure the week was over. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. I agree. Yes. This is like the slowest moving week. And then next week, since I'm not working, it's going to be like the fastest moving week. Like I'm going to wake up and be like Friday. I'll be like, wait a second. It was just Christmas morning and now it's Friday. That's how that
I expect this. I expect the same thing. The way the holiday fell with the days I'm taking off, not the best. So we are going to not go to our main topic since we're so into the holiday conversation. We're going to stick with my secondary topic. It's going to become the first topic. Ed, your opinion, your persuasion, if you will, Diehard, Christmas movie or not?
Oh, goddamn, that's a Christmas movie. Listen, this is awesome that you would say that because I'm going to tell you right now what is happening immediately after I log off from recording this episode. The family's watching Die Hard tonight. It is a Christmas movie. We are watching Die Hard tonight.
So I am very split on this. And I can argue solidly, I believe, for either side. So, I'm going to take the other point of view, but know that I am not diehard on either one of these point of views, pun intended. If it was a Christmas movie, there wouldn't be a question about it. There wouldn't be people arguing about it being a Christmas movie if it was a Christmas movie. Like, it's kind of like porn. If you see it and you know it, and if there's a large contingent of people like, I don't see it, not a Christmas movie.
That's a poor argument. I think you would lose, and you'd get an F in logic class with that argument because I'm going to tell you why. It's stupid people that don't realize it's a Christmas movie. They're the stupid people of the world that created this argument because it's completely lost on them that the movie takes place on Christmas Eve. How can a movie who takes place solely, it's not like, a lot of movies take place over a period of time. Die Hard takes place on one freaking day, Christmas Eve. It's a Christmas movie. Matter of fact, it might even be 2 days. It might actually bridge over midnight into Christmas because, he was killing people for a while there. So it's a Christmas movie, but stupid people forget about it. That's really what it is.
But don't you think that those stupid people at this point would have gone back, watched it, and then made their decision? Like,
oh, stupid people are stubborn too. Listen, how would I have a Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party 1988 T-shirt if it wasn't a Christmas movie?
I mean, you could have a T-shirt that represents anything and not have it be a Christmas movie.
No. Your argument's terrible. I'll tell you this. I have a better argument. I can argue why it's not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
I got an argument for you. Just saw this today. The limo driver, when he's hanging out in the garage waiting for John McClane, he's watching USC play Notre Dame. USC and Notre Dame played November 26, 1988, which was 2 days after Thanksgiving. So in reality, there's a time continuum problem here, and maybe it's a Thanksgiving movie. That would be my argument for you.
See, I got a better argument for why it is a Christmas movie. And it has nothing to do with it happens on Christmas. Because if you go ahead and rewatch It's a Wonderful Life, I would like you to tell me what that movie has to do with Christmas. It happens in the winter. The end happens in the winter. The entire movie happens over the entire guy's life, and I don't even think you see him celebrate Christmas once. But what makes it a Christmas movie is the zeitgeist of the country has decided it's a Christmas movie, and so therefore you watch it around Christmas. And that has more to do with in line with Die Hard, because when Die Hard was released in July, it was an action movie that happened to happen on Christmas. It was not a Christmas movie that happened to be an action movie. So it has become a Christmas movie because people on the It's a Christmas Movie side have decided, I'm going to watch this at Christmas. And then they justify it by going, well, it happens on Christmas Day. It's a Christmas movie.
There's no justification. It happens on Christmas. Why wouldn't I watch it on Christmas?
Do you watch It's a Wonderful Life?
No, never watched that movie in my life.
Do you consider it
Obviously not, because I've never watched it.
Because you never watched it doesn't mean that you don't consider it Christmas. Is it a movie that in your head is connected to Christmas?
Well, listen, first of all, it's my podcast, right? So I get to make half the rules on this podcast, right? So let's put that. So, like, don't compare me to society. I get to make the rules to my podcast. Second part is,
I'm going to mute you. Won't be your podcast.
Well, you only can mute half of the podcast. Point. Yes, I do think it's a Christmas movie because everyone's told me it's a Christmas movie. Not because you know what? Now I'm never watching that damn movie because it's not a Christmas movie.
So that's funny.
People told me it was a Christmas movie.
Everyone has told you, which is actually my true argument for why Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So many people have told me it's a Christmas movie. So many people have bought into it being a Christmas movie that those people who say it's not are probably wrong just because they are a loud and probably big minority, but still a minority. If that many people think it's a Christmas movie, it's probably a Christmas movie because it's a Christmas movie to them. Like, my biggest argument is to go through the film and try to pick and choose what makes a movie a Christmas movie, I think is a flawed attempt at deciding what makes it a Christmas movie. Because I think that definition of whatever you use will eventually take some Christmas movie and push it out and be like, well, that's the exception. That one doesn't have those things. So let me add this. And then you add this other thing, and all of a sudden some movie that just happens to happen a snowfall in it that nobody has watched in 30 years and is never going to watch. Oh, that's a great Christmas movie. Rambo.
Does Rambo take place on Christmas?
Rambo, the final shootout, it happens in the winter. The final shootout, he's destroying Christmas decorations in the city in Portland. In Oregon, not Portland. Freedom, I think is the name of the town, but it is Freedom. So when you see Rambo, you're like, this could be a Christmas movie. Like, there's enough happening.
Listen, Rocky IV is a Christmas movie. He fights Drago on Christmas Day.
There you go. There you go,
Right?
Rock. See, if you start, that's my point. If you start to just try to define it by what's in the movie,
But
you're
here's
going to
the problem.
find things.
Yeah, but here's the problem, though. And again, I went back with my original argument on Die Hard. It takes place solely on Christmas Eve and possibly Christmas Day. Rambo, parts of it are on Christmas. Rocky IV, parts of it are on Christmas, right? So it's not all on Christmas. That's why I think it's a little loose that those would be Christmas movies. But Die Hard might actually be the only Christmas movie ever, because all other movies take place like on the days like Christmas Vacation, for example. That takes place the whole month of December. There's scenes with him actually at work kissing his boss's ass. What's Christmassy about that?
What about Polar Express then? That happens not only does that happen all on Christmas Eve, it all happens between 11:55 and midnight on Christmas Eve.
Oh, Polar Express is a Christmas movie without a doubt. Okay, so there's 2 Christmas movies.
Okay.
Like even Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer might not be a Christmas TV show because that goes from the birth of that freaking reindeer all the way up to Christmas Eve. Like, so it encompasses a lot more than just Christmas. I mean, he's playing reindeer games and getting made fun of. I mean, that was not on Christmas.
You want to do an attack? How about Frosty?
Oh, Frosty. That stuff that's not even about Christmas. It's about a freaking snowman. That's not Christmas.
See, there you go. I mean, I appreciate that you're going to stick by your hardcore definition and eliminate Frosty from the Christmas vernacular. No more Frosty, gone. Magic hat.
The only reason Frosty gets into the conversation is Santa shows up to save his ass, right? Yeah. Like Santa, brings him back to life, right?
Yes.
Okay. We don't know that was on Christmas. And matter of fact, it wasn't. Because Santa had time to go take a freaking snowman and put him back to life. On Christmas, he's freaking busy.
I mean,
he's busy the day before Christmas. He's busy the month before. He's got to keep those elves in line. This had to be after Christmas. It was probably a January snowstorm. Santa had 0 to do, so he could show up and save a snowman. It's not Christmas. There's no way. It's January. You want to celebrate January, boom, Frosty's your thing.
So you're telling me Santa was coming back from Miami, enjoying his post-winter break, heard about this snowman, said, let me just drop in here, bring this snow dude back to life, and I'm going to get up to the North Pole and start next year's work. Get those elves rolling.
Probably. I'll tell you one other thing, maybe what happened, I don't know where Santa was hanging out, but maybe the kids in that Frosty that made Frosty, right? They seemed a little down on their luck. Maybe their parents screwed them for Christmas, and Santa felt bad about it. So he had them on a list. He was keeping an eye on them. He was looking in his snow globe. He was keeping an eye on him. Saw that she tried to save Frosty, and he freaking melted, right? And he's like, you know what? I got to do the girl a solid because I screwed her at Christmas. I'm not really sure, but I think it's a January TV show.
Okay. All right. Yes? The Santa Claus takes place over 90 days. That's definitely your Christmas movie. Do you hear that?
No, did not.
Santa Claus takes place over 90 days. Definitely a Christmas movie.
The Santa Claus, the one with Tim Allen?
Yes, the one with Tim Allen.
All right. Now that is a gray area, that movie. That's a great one. I love the fact that somebody's trying to stump me. That's a gray area. That because the movie is solely about Santa Claus. By definition, it's a Christmas movie. And what I mean by definition, I mean by like biblical definition, like Santa Claus is Christmas. Honestly, there's a lot of Christians that think I'm going to hell. That's blasphemy, right?
Don't worry, the Jews and the Muslims and the Hindus all agreed with you. Like, yes, right? It's not what Christmas is about.
I mean, isn't Jesus about Christmas? Yeah, no, Santa Claus, by definition. I mean, whatever. There's that Christ movie that Mel Gibson did, right? I guess that's a Christmas movie too, right? I don't know. I'm going to hell.
I think that's
now,
an Easter movie,
but
you know,
an Easter movie.
Don't quote me. But
right. So Jesus movies are Easter movies, and Santa Claus movies are Christmas movies.
Yeah, Little Drummer Boy. That's Jesus being born. I think that's Christmas.
No, it was just a setup for Easter.
Okay. So I think you've now
listen. Every holiday has an origin story. That's Easter's origin story.
So what I'm getting from you have two criteria now. It's either abundantly between on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yes.
Or it's about Santa, which by the way gets you your Rudolph covered. Like, because that's really about Santa. Where Frosty, Santa makes a cameo, doesn't count.
Yeah, he probably wasn't even in the credits at the end of the show.
Santa cameo doesn't count. Just like a Christmas Day doesn't, Christmas Day showed up in the middle of the movie. Just a cameo doesn't count.
I'll tell you something else I don't watch because you'll never catch me dead. These Hallmark freaking shows, so there's a lot of banter going on. I saw on the internet that some guy he took an AI bot and he forced it to watch every Hallmark movie ever and then write its own Hallmark movie, right? And it basically about down on her luck, single woman, goes to hometown, meets man who kills her. I don't know how that got in there, but that was like the AI bots Christmas. But the point of the matter is, a woman going home for the holidays in of itself does not make it a Christmas movie. It makes it a hopeless romantic movie, maybe, or a hapless romantic movie, but does not make it a Christmas.
I think that's fair. She goes home. She goes to the small town. She shows up at the diner. She leaves a nice tip. Not a Christmas movie. Speaking of tips, I am getting a little tired with some of the places that I'm being asked to tip people.
Like Jersey Mike's?
Jersey Mike's. Let me first start off with, if you go to a restaurant and you sit your ass down, remember that half of the problems you have are not your wait staff's fault, but their money relies on your tip. So be kind, probably tip them well. Even if there's something wrong with your food, it probably wasn't their fault. You're not going to go to the cashier and be like, you're going to get less money because I picked a rotten apple that was in this bag I couldn't see. Same thing should apply to your wait staff. So this is not who I'm looking at. I am looking at, like you said, you go to a place where you go up to the counter, you order your food, and then you pay. Now, if I pay with cash and you have a change jar, sure, you get my 73 cents. But when I put my card in, I don't know. I'm not going to tip you. Don't ask me for a tip for my hoagie. Am I wrong?
I think you're wrong, Obi. Now, listen, I understand why you feel that way, because I don't think you're unique in that feeling. And I was first put off by it as well, no doubt. But I think where I've come around to this is that I have this revelation that during COVID, these suckers had to go to work every day, right? And they had to serve my ass, right? Because I was doing DoorDash and all that crap, right? Because I was too afraid to get COVID, but I was perfectly fine ordering food from somebody else who had to go, work next to other people. And I just look at I look at it as a guilt tax almost. Like, I see it. Listen, I'm a 10% guy. It comes up, I hit 10% like every time, because I'm like, you know what? People are working their ass off. They're getting paid $15. Maybe if the $15 got there on minimum wage. I worked in those types of jobs, shitty jobs. I worked at Red Lobster. I worked in, as a dishwasher, didn't get shit there. But I worked at Wendy's, right? I was a burger flipper. You work free. This is one of the jobs I worked the hardest in my life at. So I don't know. I think the tip, not a big deal, but I do understand why it rubs people the wrong way.
So the DoorDash guy, I'll tip. The delivery dude, I'm tipping. I don't know. That guy gets the tip from me. But if I'm at the counter, no.
All right. Well, let's use Jersey Mike's, for example, right?
Okay.
Been to Jersey Mike's, right?
I've been to Jersey Mike's. It's like, for anyone who hasn't been to Jersey Mike's, it's like, it's not exactly like Subway, but you order your sandwich, you watch the guy or lady.
And they make that shit for you. They make it for you.
They put the sandwich together
for you,
and then they give it to you.
They could say, "Hey, Ed, you want to come behind the counter and make this shit yourself? Everything's here," but they don't. So I think that's worth 10%.
But when you go to the restaurant and I give the restaurant, do I walk into the back and ask, "Hey, you did the cooking"?
Well, listen, that's different because again, I worked in a restaurant. I know for a fact, as a dishwasher, I got paid more than the waiter did.
Okay.
The fact. But busboys and waiters, they split their tips because
busboys and waiters split their tip. But the person who at the restaurant I worked at, the person who was at the door,
yeah,
they got paid. They got a salary. They didn't get part of the tips.
Right.
So the people who cook the food. So okay, let's go slightly different from Jersey Mike. What about, like you said, Burger King, Wendy's, Five Guys, where the person who takes your order and then it gets cooked by somebody else who calls your name up? Do you give the 10% there?
No.
So it's only for the person who walks down the line with you. What about Chipotle, where like the person goes halfway down the line with you and then somebody else takes over at the other half?
No, I don't tip at Chipotle either. I got a problem with that.
Gotta be that somebody has to go the whole way down the line with you. If it's a different person, You
Well,
don't tip.
Obi, I don't go through life this philosophical, but I appreciate you making me thinking about my daily activities here. Yeah, it must
You
be
don't
that.
go through like this philosophical. Rewind the podcast and ask him about Christmas movies. But go on.
Well, it's Christmas season. I've been thinking about that a lot. But the tipping, sometimes it's if I'm in a good mood. Like if I feel like I'm having things are fortunate for me in life, like life's going good for me. Like why can't I just give that 10%? I'm giving like 52 cents to somebody, like to all 7 guys back there, ladies. But I I don't see a big deal. I really don't. I'm just I'm trying to pay it forward. But I understand. Listen, if you're down on your luck, life isn't going good for you. Yeah, screw those people. People should be
I,
tipping my ass. I get it. I get it.
I will say again, if I buy the sandwich and there is a chip jar and I use cash, my change goes in there. Now it's not a lot.
See, I never tip. I never do the tip jar. Never.
Never do the tip jar.
Never do the tip jar. Nope. You know why I never do the tip jar?
Why?
There's 2 reasons I never do the tip jar. The first one,
Will this be philosophical?
one is just purely comical. The one reason I don't do the tip jar is I watch Seinfeld, and I remember you tip. The only reason you tip at the end of the day is to get recognition for it, so they remember you. Like, listen, you go to open bar, right? What's the number one thing you do when you go to open bar? You tip big on the first drink. Why? Because you go cut the line the rest of the freaking wedding or wherever you're at, right? So
Right.
why do you tip? Tip is for what is it? It's not true, right? But it's to improve service, right? Tip to improve service, right? So that's why you do it. So if you're not going to be seen putting the money in the tip jar, why are you going to tip, right? And then you're like George Costanza, you got to pull the money back out, so you get then now you're a thief, right? So I never tip. That's one reason. The other reason is your change part. And if I was working there and you threw me a couple nickels, I'd be like, dude, why don't you go home and try to roll that shit and bring it to the bank? I don't need to do that. So I'm not going to put a couple nickels in there. Like dollar bills is what I would put in there, but I need my dollar bills because I might have to spend it on something else.
Well, in terms of the change, I know you're not where I am. Where I live, we're just so used to the banks around here having coin machines that doesn't even dawn on me.
By
But
the way, banks that I have might have the coin machine, but I do all online banking, whatever. But the credit card's really easy. So we do differ there. I don't do the cash.
so that okay. So you're going to give 10%
Yeah.
if the person seems to have made your food for you, and then with your card. But if it's cash, you're probably not going to tip the same person. Whereas me, I'm going to give them the change if it's cash, but not on my card. Okay.
Oh, yeah, and I'll go one step further. If I go to a Jersey Mike's,
But you seem to
although
love.
I like Jersey Mike's. It's good. But I go to this other place, Nardelli's. They make a good sandwich too. I went there today, as a matter of fact. They got a racket where you give them 10%, whatever you give them. Then they ring the bell. So anybody in there knows that you're a big spender. I like that. I walk out with my chest all puffed out. They just did bing, bing, grazie. That's right. I'm the big guy.
Cold Stone Creamery, they used to sing when you tipped them.
Yeah.
Then they stopped singing, and then I stopped tipping them. I was like, wait, you don't sing?
I agree. And so but I will tell you, Nardelli's is now, Nardelli's is, they're teetering on a fine line now, because here's why. Remember I said to improve service, right? So the last time I went in there before today, same guy at the counter. I go in there about once a week. Guy at the counter says, name for the order. I recognize you. I just don't remember your name. That's fine. It's hard to spell. I understand. Ed. Okay. So I get my sandwich and I give a tip. I give a tip every freaking time. And I'm in there other times and I see people get their food and the bell doesn't get rung. I get my food, the bell gets rung, right? So I go in there. This was last week. I don't remember your name. I know what you look like. What's your name? I go in there today. I know what you look like. I don't remember your name. Then I'm thinking to myself, maybe this motherfucker ain't going to get a tip. But I did it because it's Christmas.
Fair enough. What about, do you tip tour guides?
Yes.
Okay.
I tip tour guides, but that depends on how good they are. Some tour guides just mail it in.
Right.
And other tour guides are very good. I also and this might be the cheap side of me. If I'm with a group of people and I know someone in the group is tipping, like they already have their money out, I'm not going to tip also.
So if I'm with a group of people and those people include my old
And I
man,
just outed myself as a big cheap ass. I understand that.
if I'm with a group of people and that group of people includes my old man, I don't tip unless they are really good. In which case, I throw in a second tip
Because you're thinking your old man's tipping, right?
I know my old man's. I'm not thinking.
See, so that I should clarify because that's the group of people I'm talking about when I'm with my dad.
Right. But you're not cheap because at some point you just become like I'm a 50-year-old kid.
If he's tipping, he's covering me. Just like my kids aren't tipping shit. They know I'm covering them.
Right. So now if the guide is exceptional, I will throw in for me.
Yes. I agree.
So and then I try to, when I go on something where I know it's going to be a tour guide who's going to tip, or sometimes they like remind you at the beginning. And by the way, don't forget we make our money on tipping. I'll try to hit up the ATM and get $25 and it's either $5 or 20, which is crazy. Like you get a what is that 300% increase if you're good, but that's usually what I carry. If you like. Are you a 5 or a 20? Like, but you're right, because some tour guides, they entice you, you're into it, you're laughing, you're learning, and other tour guides are like, and over here we have the Eiffel Tower. Hey kids, Big Ben,
Yeah, I also think the other thing that matters on the tour guide, since you went there, I think the price of the tour matters as well. Like, so I go on some cruises and you go on these tours, they're like $250 a person. That's freaking ridiculous, by the way.
Yes. That's a hefty.
And I understand the poor person giving the tour isn't getting any of that money. Like the cruise ship's getting somebody's getting a piece and they're getting a very little piece. But it's just really tough to stomach let's say $200 tour per person, 4 of us. That's $800 to go see some whales. It's real tough. Not to say I didn't tip. It's just real. Then you start doing the math in your head. Like I spent $800 on this and now I got to spend more money. Just, I don't know. That always comes into factor into it. It's different than if you're just going through New York City on a $35, see the city bus.
Right. Well, now those buses don't have to tip because they just play it in your ear and there's no person.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and I'm not tipping the bus driver who just, that doesn't seem.
So I'll tip, I'll tip the guy at like the airport shuttle. Like you park your car and you. I'll tip him. I'll tip him, but I'll also tip him depending on if he touches. He gets more if he touches my luggage. Like some of those guys, they don't touch their luggage.
Right.
Then they get maybe $2. But if they touch my luggage, they probably get $2 a bag, right? So all depends. Like it all depends on if you're touching my luggage, if you're not, if you're helping me out, or if you're just doing what you're supposed to do. There's a lot. Tipping sucks because it's a big, complicated calculation you got to do at a moment's notice.
So what brought this whole conversation up? And my shout out to the Modern House Soho in New York City. We had a great time there, and everyone who worked there was fantastic. And they had held my luggage, and I went out, and I forgot that that I had my luggage there, and there would be guys there to help me, so I didn't hit up the ATM. And I get there, and they're like, "Oh, we can get your luggage." I'm like, "No, please don't take my luggage. I feel horrible. I have no money to tip you." Granted, it's 10 steps, whatever. But like that is something you do to get a tip. And they're like, "No, we insist. Do not worry about it. We got it." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because I'm really embarrassed. I have like no cash. And they're like, "No worries." Like, because I warned them. I would, of course, I'd love to throw you guys a few bucks. So shout out to those guys at the Modern House Soho. Say it twice just to give them their props. That's the best I can do.
So Obi, I get that.
Then
right?
You get embarrassed because you're in a position where you should have been prepared.
Yep.
But
I agree. And so here's another one on the tipping piece. Like you're talking about valet parking. So if I choose to valet park my car because I want to, like I'm going to the casino and I can self park to the left or valet to the right, and I want to be a high roller that day, and I go valet, I got no problems with it, right? I'm choosing it. But I hate nothing more than when I go to like a function, and because of the limitations of the space, it's mandatory valet parking. Like, I hate to have to tip a guy to park my car when I'm perfectly capable of parking my car myself. but they have a rule that says I can't. That pisses me off.
So we have a favorite fancy restaurant that we go to, my wife and I. And if you pull in the back parking lot, you have to like drive through somebody else's parking lot. You can get in behind and park your car. But if you come in the front entrance, it's mandatory valet. And so we go in the back because you're right. Like, unless I want to, it's not that, oh, I don't want to tip these guys. They're still constant cars. I don't feel like I'm ripping them off, but I'm like, I don't want to pay for valet parking today. It's a nice day. When it's raining, hook me up. Come in under the awning. But you're right. Valet parking, or this the coat rack person is there. And you're like, do I give them my coat rack, or do I look like the fool with my coat? Because I wasn't.
Yeah,
You know.
you're not thinking about it either.
Yeah.
I also hate having somebody else in my car because those guys, that's the other thing. You valet park your car, but they decide to adjust your seat to fit them. Hey, I'm sorry, dude. You're in my car for like 30 seconds. Scrunch up a little bit if you're a big guy. And if you're small, but tip it, stretch out the toes a little bit. I don't understand why when I get in my car, I have to readjust my seat or my mirrors.
So I think a lot of these ones that we're on now, which are the ones that triggered me even more than the Jersey Mike's type situation, is we are moving more and more to like a cashless society. So these guys, the valet, the coat rack, the bellhop, you just had money on you. Like, oh, here, boom, you have change for this. And of course they did. They wanted to get there. Yeah, of course I have change for that because I want you to give me some of that. And now you're like, do you have a card reader on you?
Yeah, you're right. And that puts you in a bad spot because I very rarely have cash on me. Very rarely. Like, because I use my credit card for everything, right?
Right.
And so then you like feel like a schmo that you can't give somebody $2 or a buck or $3. Like,
you're sitting here, you're like, I mean, I was in the city. I was prepared to have some fun in the city. I'm sitting here with a bank, I think we've talked on the show about like I have my own little allowance. Allowance account is full. Got all my money in the world, more than enough to tip a guy a couple bucks. And I'm like, huh?
Well, and then the other problem is if you do actually have cash because you're going out, so you're like, oh shit, I got to hit the ATM. ATM ain't giving you small bills and singles. ATM gives you 20s. So now you park your valet car. Yeah, you may have $100 in your wallet, but it's 520s. That don't help.
My ATM gives fives.
Yeah, South Jersey's got something going on down there. You got change machines in your banks and getting fives.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely on the fives. That is the greatest thing.
And then is it gauche to say to the guy, hey, I only got 20s. Can you give me change?
I don't think it's gauche. It might be. I've never thought it was. Call it bad parenting. I'd like to give you something, but I don't want to give you a 20. So
see, I have a tough time saying that to somebody. Yo, bro, I know I need to give you something, but you ain't worth what I got. I mean, that's what you're really saying. When you say to somebody, can you break a 20? You're basically saying, dude, you ain't worth a 20. And then you go, yo, can you break a 20? But I need a 10, a 5, and 5 singles, please. Then they know exactly what they're getting.
I'll usually tell them how much I want back. But I'll say, I would not say break a 20 enough. I say, you have change for a 20. Can I get 13 back? Can I get 15 back? Can I get 12? Whatever the proper route is. When it's the worst, it's like you said, if you go to open bar function, like if you're going to be at that open bar function all night, I will probably drop a 20 on the first one. And
so do I.
But if you're at an open bar function where you're not going to be there the whole time for whatever, especially like a work function, like like I'm not going full scale, then you're like, I need you. I don't need you to remember me. So
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. I agree.
Yeah. So
you can't
remember me as the guy who wouldn't give you a 20.
Yeah, if I'm going to be here all day, I have no problem giving you 20, and I'll probably give you another one later because you're going to be putting me to the front of the line. And you're going to earn it. But since I'm only going to have one, here's a couple bucks, buddy. I get it.
So now here's an idea I read about in the paper. The paper. I don't know, a website, whatever it was, about tipping at a restaurant. now in our modern times, we usually know what the prices at a restaurant are. You know, like you're going with, you and your wife, let's say, and whatever. You get one appetizer, one meal, 3 drinks, and a dessert between you. You look on the menu, quickly add it up. That's going to be between 150 and 160. So you decide, let's call it 160. And you're like, okay, it's going to be $30. I'll end up tipping $32 if it's 20% on 160. I read in a paper, instead of tipping after, tip before.
To improve service.
They know what they're getting. They know you've tipped them. And if you're tipping on an estimate of 20%, even if you go slightly over or slightly under, they're going to feel like you're a 20% tipper. And it might improve your service. And it takes some of the pressure off of them to have to behave fake. Because this is what they got. They know what they got. Now, don't go and give them $10 if you're at a restaurant where you're going to spend $160. But I've never had the guts to try it, but I've always wanted to.
It's an interesting theory, Obi. I think another episode, and I know we're getting short, and people probably want to get back to the holiday plans after they listen to this podcast episode. But a future episode, I think we have to talk about splitting bills too.
This is easy.
We don't have time to get into that. I don't take the bait. We don't need to do it now. But I'm just saying, because, and I'd love to hear people's feedback on that. We could have a good episode around splitting bills and people's feedback around that, because everyone has, just as is Die Hard a Christmas movie, I think a lot of people have their own opinions on splitting the bill, and I think there's a lot of stupid people too. We don't know how to split a bill.
I'm just going to say that to the group of people who got this podcast as a text message, who I don't harass to listen to our podcast, if you got this far, it was a teaser for a future episode. I'm just going to leave it at that. They know who they are now. I hope they listened, and I wait for their feedback. Because the truth is that we suck, and that's charming. I'm Obi. That said, listen to us wherever you can find your podcasts. Thanks a lot.
Happy holidays.